Welcome to the show. I have a great show planned for you this week. Later on, I'll have with me Josh Gary, who is a candidate for the West Virginia State Senate in District 2. We'll be talking all about his background, his candidacy. But first, we'll start off with some of our usual features. And it's almost March. Hard to believe. Leap year this year, of course. And happy birthday, by the way, to all those leap year babies out there. Only get to see that date actually once every 4 years. And, you get to actually celebrate on quote unquote the real day. So that's always fun. But March is almost here, and March is Women's History Month, and I didn't really even appreciate that or realize that until just this past week, that March is always Women's History Month. And this year there's a theme, which I guess there always is, and for 2020 that is Valiant Women of the Vote. And I thought that was an interesting one, especially here in a presidential election year, so many other important elections throughout our state and throughout our area. And it's a very important right, the right to vote. And so many people take it for granted, but there are a lot of countries around the world that don't have democracies. They don't have the right to vote, and there are certain maybe classes of people that can't vote. And there were at times in the history of our country, certain groups of people that did not have the right to vote, women being one of them. So the thing that's very disheartening sometimes is that people don't take advantage of that right. And I think it's, there's really a couple of times that we have an opportunity to really have our voices heard as citizens. And one of those times is when we go to that ballot box, used to be, but it's not so much a box now, it's more a computer screen, but when we go to vote and we get to exercise our right to vote and say, here's who I want to be my elected officials. And your vote's one of many, but if everybody said, hey, my vote doesn't matter, then of course there'd be no votes and we wouldn't have a democratic society. And people fought very hard to get those rights for us. And we need to take advantage of that, recognize its importance. And I think we need to pass that along to young people. Let them know, hey, it's important when you reach the age that you're allowed to vote, get out and do that. Educate yourself a little bit. Research the issues, research the candidates. So many times now we just hear, well, I'm for this party or I'm for that party. The thing to do is to look at it and say, okay, what do these people stand for? Do they stand for people like me? Do they stand for people who aren't like me? What issues are important to me and how are they on those issues? And sometimes it's easy to say, well, I don't understand all of these issues. I don't get the different types of tax rates or tax cuts or increased taxes. I don't understand some of the other policy decisions that have to be made with budgets and other things. So people decide just on some of the basic issues that they can understand the most. But the bottom line is it's not that hard to understand any of the issues if you just go to the candidates' websites and read what they have to say about them, or listen to them talk, or interviews with them, or if there's a debate, listen to the debates and see what they have to say about the different things. I mean, there's so much out there now online where you can read about the different positions of people, and there's so much, there's so many events where you can go to and sit down and listen to what the candidates have to say, that it really is, I've found most times, not only educational, but also informative and sometimes entertaining even. So it's worth doing, but do take advantage, whether you're male, female, young, old, white, black, take advantage of the opportunity to vote, because it's something that people fought for. So Women's History Month and the theme being Valiant Women of the Vote, I think is pretty significant. I'll give you a legal tip here this week as well, and that is about nursing homes. And you can check out nursing homes through a government website. If you go into Medicare.gov, again, that's Medicare.gov, there's something called Nursing Home Compare. Now, Nursing Home Compare will give you all kinds of statistics regarding the different nursing homes, in terms of different rates of problems or successes. In some instances, it'll tell you which ones are better than others with respect to different problems that can arise in nursing homes. It's very important to know that. So many people get to the point where a loved one has to be in a facility because they can't take care of themselves anymore, and perhaps even you can't take care of them. That happens frequently. It's not that you don't love that person. You love them with all your heart. It's because you love them so much that you have to put them in a place where they can have that attention they need 24 hours a day. But you want to make sure they're in a place that they are going to get the right type of attention, in a place that is not making too many mistakes, that's not dirty, that's not allowing people to fall, not allowing people to get bed sores and things of that nature. And there's other ways you can determine that too. Just go into the nursing home. If it smells really bad, they're probably not changing the resident sheets and stuff because they're soiling the beds and they're not changing them regularly. So if it smells funny in there, that's probably a bad sign for that nursing home. If you see people looking, very out of it, or almost comatose in the hallways, just sitting there, that's not a real good sign. That probably means they're trying to keep people that way so they don't have to quote unquote deal with them as much. But if you go into a place and you see the residents vibrantly interacting with one another. There's activities going on. The place smells good. That's probably a good sign. So check them out before you go, but also going to this Medicare.gov nursing home compare is a great way to check things out as well. And I also want to give you a quote this week, and with March being upon us, I always mention one of my favorite times of year is March Madness, and enjoy that so much with the basketball season. And this quote comes from Dick Vitale, of course, the longtime ESPN announcer and former coach. And Coach Vitale said this: "March Madness is an incredible 3 weeks. I firmly believe it's the greatest 3 weeks in sports. You have the Super Bowl, you have the World Series." And obviously he's a basketball guy saying you can have the Super Bowl, you can have the World Series, but the fact of the matter is that one of the things that makes March Madness so much fun is that the office pools get involved with people picking against one another to see whose brackets are going to be the best. That makes it fun. You get all the different, schools from around the country, from so many different states involved, and you get that, whether it be geographic pride, conference pride, or state pride, whichever it may be. People get excited about that and, want to battle and see how far their team can go. And then also, of course, it's one and done. You can talk about, for example, the NHL playoffs or the NBA playoffs or it doesn't matter, Major League, whatever it may be, they're series. So, you can lose a couple games and you're still alive. Here, you lose, you're done. So it's, and anybody can knock anybody off on any given day, it seems, in basketball. So much fun to watch. And I'm really looking forward to this year's tournament, of course, seeing the Mountaineers hopefully make a little bit of a run as well. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on in the show. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll have with me Josh Gary, candidate for West Virginia State Senate in the 2nd District. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Bob Huggins. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
Looks like a bad one's coming. Yeah. Right?
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's no different. I have with me Josh Gary, who is a candidate for the West Virginia State Senate in the 2nd District. He hails out of Marshall County. And Josh, it's great to have you here on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Talking about the 2nd District, it is a big district. I mean, we're talking about a ton of counties that are within that district, ranging all the way from Marshall, then going down through Wetzel and Tyler, and all the way down to Gilmer. I skipped over some of the Ritchie and Calhoun, Doddridge in there, parts of Monongalia County, parts of Marion County. So, you got your work cut out for you.
Oh, yes, I do. I realized after I got into the race, I thought, whoop, this is a pretty big district. I didn't realize how big it was till I printed out the map.
Yeah, it is. And you have a lot of places to go. But you kind of got interested in government and into politics to a degree. I was reading it at a very early age, relatively speaking, through a class trip when you were in high school.
Yeah, John Marshall, where I went to high school and where I teach now, I had a class in U.S. government and politics, and the teacher took us to the state capitol in Charleston. And growing up, we didn't have a whole lot of money, so I'd never been to the state capitol before, and it really showed me that it was some place that I just needed to be, and I really enjoyed it. And I always enjoy taking my students when I can to that state capitol and try and giving them the same experience that I had.
Oh, so you do that on certain years yourself here now as a teacher?
I teach that same class now. The lady that taught me retired and handed off the class to me, so it's kind of really interesting that I'm doing the same thing that I really loved as a kid.
What in teaching like a government type class to kids here in the local area, I mean, do kids seem interested in it these days, or they seem totally disinterested? Because I know, like growing up, it was kind of fascinating, but in today's world, I don't know, there's so much social media involvement and kids may see that, and I don't know if that turns them on or off, or what's been your observation with what kids think about our government?
Well, it's interesting. There are a certain number of them that really like it, and you wouldn't think they wouldn't. There's a certain number of them that could care less, and you think, okay, well, that's the way it is. But you just try and teach them that there is a connection to them. And when you see that aha moment where they're like, oh, I get it, that is what makes it worth it to me to teach them, because that is what I'm trying to do, to make them realize, I understand now.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the, I think, probably the most rewarding things of being a teacher, is to see that where the kind of light bulb goes off type thing. I only have to get the benefit of that with my own kids sometimes, seeing just something maybe I've been trying to teach them for years, but as an educator, you get to see it with a lot of kids, not just your own, and that's got to be rewarding when it happens, I'm sure. So.
Oh, it really is, and it's nice with your own kids as well. I understand that, having my own too.
Yeah, you got two girls that are teenagers. You got a 9th grader and a 7th grader, so that's and they always say that those years with girls are kind of the most interesting and sometimes the most challenging. But so you're right in the midst of it. So God bless you for that.
Thank you.
In addition to your role of being a teacher down at John Marshall, you've also been involved with the AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, here in recent years, and I've even played a leadership role there as president of that organization for Marshall County and on the board for the state. And of course, that group was very active. It still is very active. But of course, a couple years ago, with the work stoppage in West Virginia and trying to fight for the benefits for teachers. I mean, what kind of role did that play in your decision to now run and actually to get into office yourself?
Well, I can't say I haven't thought about doing it before, but it definitely put me into a different perspective, being at the Capitol and seeing how the legislature worked, or didn't work in some cases, and then being at home and speaking with the people that I work with and that I live near, and thinking, I could do something more than this. Not that what I did during that strike a few years ago wasn't important, but I just thought maybe I can contribute something more to it.
What type of response have you gotten from folks? I mean, you since you filed and announced your candidacy, what have people been telling you?
I've had everything from, wow, I didn't see that coming, to what took you so long? So there's a lot of people, especially close friends and family, they're like, we're behind you 100%. What do you need us to do? And it's been great so far.
The teachers' strike, was an issue in the 2018 election. I think it was a big one. I mean, teachers really turned out and voted, and we saw some of the folks, get elected in 2018. Bill Uhlenfeld here in the 1st District, great example. I mean, Bill was really out there in support of teachers. He's got family members that are educators and have been for years, and the teachers, school service personnel really came out and supported Bill, and I think that helped him in getting elected. What has been your observation in terms of what's motivated the teachers, the school service personnel to really get involved in a way that I really haven't seen during my lifetime, them get involved?
Yeah, and I haven't seen it really since I was younger, because there was a teacher strike in 1990. I think I was in 5th grade, but you really don't think about things when you're in 5th grade. You're just like, oh, I'm off school. Yeah. But in this case, it was, for many years we've been told, we'll take care of it, we'll get to it. And at the same time, they'd say, but we're taking this away. We're taking this away. And people just got fed up with it. And it really woke them up to realizing we have to stand up for ourselves. And once it started happening, everybody was like, yeah, we got to do this. And it was something that was almost just happened naturally. And then people got behind us, and it just really, it was something to behold.
Yeah, it really is. When you see the people of West Virginia, working folks, come together for something, it's really something, a sight to see, because West Virginians are strong. I don't care whether it's down there, all rooting for the Mountaineers at a football game, or whether it's some other common cause. When people come together, they really do have an effect, in this state. And I think we saw that with the particular teacher strike.
Oh, it really had an effect.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll continue speaking with Josh Gary. We'll talk about some of the issues that are important to him and why he's running for the state Senate. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Tractor-trailers are some of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. There are federal rules for load sizes, driver's hours, and maintenance for a reason. When big rigs don't follow these rules, entire families can be torn apart. We have the talent and the resources to take on these large companies. Hopefully, through our work, families are being helped and trucking companies are getting the message about safety. Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Banks did great today. He looks great after his spa day.
For being such a good boy, we'll take these two.
Great.
Thanks to my free Kasasa cashback checking account from Belmont Savings Bank, my Kasasa cash is paying for my dog's treats.
Kasasa pays you cash back on everyday debit card purchases, plus refunds on ATM withdrawal fees nationwide. Open your account today at Belmont Savings Bank to take back banking and enjoy monthly cash rewards with Kasasa.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with my guest, Josh Gary, who is a candidate for the West Virginia State Senate in District 2. And, Josh, you're a guy from Marshall County. You've been a Marshall County guy your whole life, I guess, other than when you were down at WVU, I guess, in school. But still,
I commuted, though. That was...
Well, that's tough to do. That's not easy to get back and forth from there. But anyway, got into teaching. And what kind of prompted you to get into teaching in the first place? I didn't ask you that.
Well, it started at an early age. My grandmother was a teacher in Marshall County, and she, of course, died when I was about 6 or 7 years old, and it always I had a connection to that through her. And I always liked helping people. I was in Boy Scouts. I was always kind of helping to teach other things to other people. So it was kind of just a natural thing for me to go into. And unlike many other people that I went to college with who changed their majors 1, 2, 3 times, depending, I was on the same road the whole way through. And I've never looked back.
Let's talk about education and the role that it may play here in this election in 2020. I mean, there's still so much to be done. I mean, and what are the issues there with respect to our educational system?
Well, I mean, we need to make sure that we're funding our classrooms, and that just doesn't just mean paying teachers more, which isn't a bad idea since we do make less than all the states surrounding us. But we also need to look into making sure our technology is up to date, making sure our classrooms are safe for our students to be in, because there are issues like heating and ventilation, HVAC issues, that some schools are very substandard, and we need to make sure that we are making sure schools statewide are up to standard, making sure that students are having their needs met, because we have a lot of students that come to school and that's really the only safe place they have. And I could go into so many different scenarios with the issues that we have in our state today, but we just need to make sure that we're funding our classrooms so that our teachers can deal with the issues that they face with their students each and every day.
Josh, let me ask you, you mentioned about the issues that students face, and one of them, of course, is this opioid crisis we have in our state and in so many parts of our country. But and I've heard the need for mental health counselors, and so many teachers I've heard say they spend a good portion of their day talking to kids about, they're not really teaching them the subjects, but just trying to help the kids. I mean, would having more folks that are trained in those issues in the schools, you think, be helpful toward combating this opioid crisis?
Oh, it would be very helpful. Just give you an example, we have students each and every day, and just at my school, that come in and they need an extra pair of pants, or they need a shirt, or various other items. And there's our teachers at our school, we all band together and we help them with those things. And it's not that it happens all the time, but it does happen often, and for various reasons. You can't really throw a stone in the state and not really hit somebody that hasn't been touched by the opioid crisis. And I see it in our school every day. And all of our teachers are dealing with this issue, and they're having to really deviate from teaching the lesson to that student to helping that student just deal with life.
Yeah, very, very sad. Turning to the other end of the spectrum, from our young people, we also have a very much an aging population in West Virginia. A lot of older folks out there, and unfortunately, our counties just don't seem to have the funds to provide services to seniors that are needed. I mean, I know you've mentioned that that's part of your campaign platform, is to try to help those folks. I mean, what are the issues there?
Yeah, we're not just trying to help our young children, we're trying to help our senior citizens as well. as well who have put in their lives helping West Virginia be a good state. And we need to make sure that their later years are filled with places where they can go and be involved, like senior centers where they can have socialization. They can make sure they're getting a good meal, because some of our seniors, they live on their own. They don't have very much in which they can really get by with, but we need to make sure that they're taken care of. We can look at things like giving our counties a little bit more funding to make sure that there are places like their senior centers are able to accommodate the people within their communities that need help.
One of the other things I've heard you mention when you've been talking to folks is infrastructure and how that's a problem. In your own district, in fact, what are the issues there?
Well, we haven't really taken care of our roads in years, and we're starting to now. Anybody that's lived in Marshall County has dealt with the traffic issues of Moundsville of the last few years, but it is on the mend, but there are so many other issues we need to take care of. And infrastructure isn't just roads, it's water lines, it's sewer lines, and so on and so forth. And with the possible cracker plant coming in right across the river from Moundsville, we really aren't ready for the influx of people that will be coming in, and our infrastructure really needs to be looked at and upgraded even more. And I know we're working on it, but there's so much else to do. And it's not just the local community, but the entire district, entire state needs to look at improving more than just the roads. It's the entire infrastructure, and we have to build for the future too.
We're even seeing issues with water. I mean, it's not something you would think in 2020 we'd be talking about, but we are.
Yeah, it's not just Flint, Michigan, and it's Payton City, West Virginia, McDowell County, West Virginia, other places as well. And until we really start investing into places like those cities and others and taking care of these issues, a lot of our sewer lines and water lines are 100 years old or more. And we really need to realize it's not going to be easy to fix it overnight. And it's going to take more than just a Band-Aid. It's going to take a lot of investment and a lot of work.
Well, Josh, I certainly wish you nothing but the best in your campaign. I know that, like I said, it's a big district. There's a lot of work to be done, but I know that you'll enjoy it and do a great job, so I appreciate you being here on the show.
Thank you.
All right. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show. When bad things happen, you need a law firm that has a record of superior results. A firm that is ready to fight for you when you can't fight alone. When you need help, Bordas & Bordas will answer the call.
Bordas & Bordas, fighting for justice.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and as I mentioned at the outset of the show, with March being upon us, that's March Madness, and I talked about how much I enjoy that time of year, but the Mountaineers are one of the reasons I'm really looking forward to this particular March Madness is that, I said earlier this year that I thought the Mountaineers really had the makeup to be able to take a shot at winning it all, and I'm having to second guess myself now, of course, with the way the second half of the season's gone. Particularly the Mountaineers really had a tough time on the road. It remains to be seen what happens at a neutral site, which you get in the tournament. But the biggest thing I think with this team is that they have the pieces for the most part. I mean, you've got big guys, you've got guards that have some ability, you got a good defense, they got depth. The biggest thing is the team just hasn't gelled. and I don't know if that's because of trying different starting lineups, but there was a long stretch there where it was the same starting lineup, and that was where some of the losses came. So it just seems like Coach Huggins hasn't been able to really find which pieces go together of the puzzle. And then also, there's no kind of true scorer on the team. A guy that's going to go out there and consistently get you 15 to 20 every night. It just doesn't exist. I mean, you got a bunch of guys that are, 8, 9, 10, 11 point per night scorers, but on any given night they could come up with 0 or 1 or 2 points. So when you have that, that's part of the problem I see is that the tournament, you see teams that make a run and usually have that one guy that you can count on when you need the big shot, when you need to get some points on the board, when other things aren't going well for the team. And I just don't know that the Mountaineers have that. Does a guy like Taz Sherman step up and become that guy? Does Deuce McBride become that guy? Does Oscar Schwebwe finally, kind of come into his own on an offensive and scoring standpoint? You just don't know, but it certainly hasn't happened for most of the season. So are the pieces there to surprise people and make a run? Yeah, but to string together 6 wins in a row like you need to win the whole daggone thing could happen. I mean, I wouldn't say that the Mountaineers have 0 shot at it, but I just think that the chances of it happening just aren't great. I mean, you got to remember, the teams, they've never won it in the history of the school. They got there to the championship with Jerry West, but didn't win it. So you're talking about something that's never been done before. So it's very unlikely in the first place, but it just as I said, it could happen, but it's a real long shot. But I'm looking forward to seeing what this team can do, because I do think they can make a run into the Sweet 16. I do think they could even make a run into the Final Four. I think it's probably more likely to be somewhere in the, get to the Sweet 16, maybe the Elite 8, but I'm not sure that the ceiling's much higher than that for this team with being able to put together that many wins in a row. But you never know. I remember Coach K down at Duke used to always say he treated it each, because you got to win 2 games at one site, then 2 games at the next site, and then 2 games in the Final Four to win the championship. So he treated each different site like a little mini tournament within its own, because he said, these guys are used to playing in tournaments, on the weekends their whole lives growing up, whether it be on the AAU circuit or whatever, and you're used to having to win the tournament this weekend. And so it seems like a lot to have to win 6 games in a row, but to have to say, look, we just need to win the 2 games this weekend, win the whatever it is tournament, the Greensboro tournament or the Cleveland tournament or wherever the tournament happens to be that weekend, win this tournament. Then next one, we just got to win this tournament. We just got to win 2 games to win this tournament. If you break it down to those 2-game segments, it becomes much easier. And of course, Coach K knows what he's doing. He's won a number of championships, so pretty interesting to hear him talk about that. Again, with it being March and the NFL Combine taking place this time of year, it's worth talking about the Steelers. What are their needs going to be here this offseason? Certainly, get aging offensive and defensive lines. You got guys like David DeCastro. How much longer will he be around at guard? You got guys on the defensive front. How much longer will they be around? So I'm looking forward to seeing what the Steelers do in the off season here, as we head toward the draft. So keep an eye on that. We'll talk about that in the weeks to come. And one of the other things we'll talk about a little bit is the YMCA. So many great activities going on at the local Wheeling YMCA. Basketball tournament coming up here mid-March after a great successful winter basketball leagues. Spring activities, the pool's always busy, and of course a great summer camp. So check out the Wise website. It's worth taking a look at. That's all the time we have this week. I appreciate you tuning in. I appreciate Josh Gary, who's running for State Senate, for being here with us. We'll see you again next time on the Jamie Bordas Show.